a different program today, and if you don't have a program, you may be a little lost like me. So I'm going to ask Rodney to back the slides up to the welcome and ask you if you are ready to be free.
Yes!
Are you ready to have more money than you know what to do with?
Yes!
Are you ready to pay cash for what you want to pay cash with?
Yes!
Are you ready to let go of any and all upset with any and everybody?
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to do that. We've always been honest. We're going to do our treatment for freedom together aloud. I speak my word for myself, my center, and all its members and friends. I know love as the only reality. I am created out of love. Love is what I am. I know this love as absolute freedom in every area of my life, the life of my center, and all who call it home. I know our center's mortgages are paid in full, and I claim for all of us financial freedom with all debts paid and cleared. I release any sense of struggle or wrongdoing. I live in an abundant universe where there is more than enough for all. We experience freedom in every moment by always having more than enough money, vibrant health, and loving relationships. We are who we have come here to be. With hearts open wide, we see the world through the eyes of love. We are blessed, we are rich, and we are free. And so it is. And we do this by using our points of power. I always pay attention. I always tell the truth and tell it quickly. I always ask for what I want when I want it. I always take total responsibility for my experience, and I always keep my agreements. And so it is. Thank you. I was talking with someone yesterday that I will not name who had wanted to do some elective physical surgery for years. And she said that she just left the doctor's office and prepaid for it in cash. This is what these treatments will do. They will let us not put things on credit cards or take out loans, but let us have the funds to do what we want to do when we want to do them. I feel more present now.
Good.
Thank you.
And I want to do some other things before we get going on this.
Okay.
Because this would be the slot to do it. Would you invite Gabby, please?
Yes, Gabby, come up. 10th grade, A.C. Reynolds High School, Raleigh, last night, North Carolina state champions cheerleader.
Isn't that interesting? Your team, or your cheerleading team, has won the state championship 4 years in a row. Do you have some part in that?
Yeah, 2 years on Gabby. Thank you.
Great.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Delighted. I have more.
Well, I just want to acknowledge that she got in at 3 o'clock in the morning. She looks great.
She always looks great. She's Lynn's daughter. I want to invite Charlie Shepard to the stage, please. Because he has been formally informed, and so we're going to go ahead and let you know now that Charlie is receiving the 2016 Practitioner Meritorious Award. That's the Practitioner of the Year Award in our organization. We'll do something more formal with that. We'll do something more formal with that when we get back from Salt Lake City in February, but that was irresistible. Congratulations.
Yeah, wonderful. Congratulations.
You ready to do this?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So let me get my stuff here. because I have ooh, how's that better? So I'm going to read an introduction here. Obviously, what you're experiencing today is something that is profoundly important if you're a minister, because the idea of being an ordained minister means that you no longer have to qualify for anything. You've done the work to present yourself in a way to your colleagues and to the organization that says that you hold this position for life. It is something that anyone that is a licensed minister certainly prizes and looks forward to. So we're making it a big deal today for Reverend Steve. So here we go. Stephen John Worthing was born in East Meadow, New York on March 16, 1953, the youngest of 4 children. When he was still quite young, Steve's family moved to Livingston, New Jersey. Early in his life, Steve was attracted to cars, not toy cars, but to the real ones. At the age of 3, he stood in the driver's seat of his father's 1950 Mercury and moved the gear shift from park to neutral, causing the car to roll down the driveway over his brother's foot and into the neighbor's car. Which was why his father purchased that car, because that was cheaper than repairing it. At the age of 5, Steve took up driving again. This time his brother and sister were in the car with him in a parking lot, waiting for their parents to return. Fortunately, there was no crash. However, Steve was involved in several other car accidents in his teens and 20s, including hitting a bridge, poles, flipping a car, having one fall off a jack and being pinned under it until a neighbor finally heard his pleas for help. His mother's explanation for why he was never injured in any of those mishaps was that God must have a special plan for his life. Sounds like a mother, doesn't it? In his youth, Steve preferred his emotional state, anger. That was his preference. To harness some of that intensity, Steve became a varsity wrestler for 2 years in high school. Steve's anger didn't keep his mother from adoring him. She would go out of her way to make him feel special. In return, Steve always wanted to please his mother by trying to be the son that she said was so special. One of Steve's greatest life lessons came when he realized that trying to please every woman in his life was not an effective way to be in a relationship. And that if he wanted the love and respect he desired, his work was to be honest, genuine, and sincere as he possibly could be. Sounds like science of mind to me. Steve grew up in a very religious household where the family went to church at least 3 times a week. They also had a mandatory daily devotion time after dinner every evening. This was not Steve's favorite part of growing up. By the time he was 18, Steve was a full-fledged drug and alcohol abuser. After many years of self-medicating, he did find Alcoholics Anonymous, which may have had an early influence toward bringing him to the science of mind. Steve has been married twice. First time was in 1978 to a woman named Eileen, a professional competitive ice skater. That marriage lasted 3.5 years. His second marriage was to Lori in 1983. From that marriage, Steve has 3 beautiful children, a daughter, Danielle, who is age 29, who works in Richmond, Virginia in the field of architectural preservation, a daughter, Nicole, age 27, who still resides in New Jersey and works in the field of fitness and nutrition, and his son, Justin, age 26, who is an All-American track star in high school and is in college, and is completing his studies at New York University Medical School and will soon be an ER physician. Steve has been a business owner and worked as a mechanical contractor through much of his professional career. We have benefited from his skills in this area with Steve's installation of our commercial dishwasher and several repairs to our air conditioning system. Thank you, Steve. Neither of Steve's marriages were founded in spiritual principles or religious affiliation. When Steve's teenage daughter was told by a cousin that her father would someday be burning in hell, Steve took the initiative to investigate neighborhood churches where his children could go to Sunday school. Sending his children to church lasted a couple of years. As his second marriage was ending, a counselor recommended that he investigate the Unitarian Universalists and religious science churches in his community. He didn't connect with the UU community, But from the first time he heard Reverend Frankie Timmers speak of Science of Mind in 1993, he was captivated and wanted to know more. Each week, Frankie seemed to include in her Sunday talk some new revelation of truth that would capture his imagination. And before long, Steve had a new way of understanding life that was changing everything. He had not been at the center in Morristown, New Jersey very long when a friend enthusiastically shared her experience of taking classes. This idea of taking classes was a new idea for Steve, so he went to check it out. He took his first class in 1991 and continued taking classes for the next 5 years, and then became a licensed practitioner of religious science in 1998. In 2002, Steve began his ministerial studies with Reverend Sam Goff in Martindale, New Jersey. At the same time, in partnership with the newly licensed Reverend Michelle Wadley, Steve co-founded a new spiritual community in West Orange, New Jersey. With Steve and Michelle's leadership and the support of a small group of committed participants, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey was born. In 2004, Steve was licensed as a minister of religious science. He has served as a chaplain and as the interim minister of Unity of Montclair, New Jersey from 2009 to 2012. During that time, he met Dory Sherman. And of the most significant and committed relationships of Steve's life, Dory is the one who has been best at lovingly supporting Steve and challenging him to be the extraordinary man he has come to be. Sounds like love to me. Dory and Steve first visited Western North Carolina when Dory's son Alex moved here to attend Warren Wilson College. Understandably, they fell in love with the area and relocated to Asheville in June of 2012. They are demonstrating a strong commitment to be a continued presence here as they are just now completing construction of a brand new home in North Asheville. Congratulations. Steve's lifelong interest in automobiles finally found something productive. And what he now does is restore vintage British sports cars for show, as well as racing them in local autocross events. Even in the midst of all these activities, Steve has demonstrated a clear calling to ministry, and we are certainly blessed to have Reverend Steve Worthing and his calling here at Center for Spiritual Living Asheville. Please welcome to the stage Reverend Steve Worthing.
So before we go formal, I just want to say how proud I am. We've sat on the couch in my office numerous times talking about how this could happen, what this would mean to have it happen, and how important I thought it was for this to happen. Because I always saw the minister in you. I always saw what that could be to this community and to this world. And I'm so grateful that you are stepping forth full-orbed this day. A lot of pins in there. So we gather today to witness a magnificent ceremony of initiation, welcoming, and recognition. Ordination in Centers for Spiritual Living is an initiation of licensed ministers into a lifelong calling of ministry. It is a welcoming of Reverend Steve into the family of ordained Science of Mind ministers, and it is a recognition of his commitment to a life of service. The calling of minister represents a bond that is sacred, empowering, constant, consistent, and with this ceremony, everlasting. Reverend Steve, with ordination, you step into a new consciousness of spiritual service and commitment. Ministry has its glorious moments of holy revelation and its challenging moments as well. With ordination, you enter into a path of no return, and you become a minister for life. This union is to be undertaken with great consideration and respect for those people who comprise your ministry and for yourself. Out of all the possibilities for giving your gifts to the world, you have chosen the path of ordination as minister of religious science. Good choice. Over the years, your ministry and you will change, but your unchanging commitment to the desires of your heart that brought you here today will ensure a life of sacred satisfaction. Reverend Steve, do not hold back. Give all the wisdom and skills and love you have to give. You must have a heart that holds others' hearts, comforts, heals, and remains deep enough to serve your own spiritual growth. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote, "I would rather see a student of this science prove its principle than to repeat all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered." Remain steadfast and true to your ideals. Let your thoughts be centered always on the realization of the divine nature of every person. I charge you to teach, heal, love, and minister to all. May the love of Spirit be forever in your heart. The truth of Spirit be expressed through your every word, and the light of Spirit be the essence of every gift you have to give.
My turn. Reverend Steve, Centers for Spiritual Living has consented to the convening of this ordination service, recognizing that your ministry is precious to our organization and our entire spiritual movement. We, as your spiritual community, offer you this celebration so that you may publicly demonstrate your sincerity and commitment to grow in consciousness and to lift humanity beyond its current understanding. Are you now prepared and willing to pledge your commitment to the principles of science of mind as you receive the mantle of ordained minister of religious science? Do you have the clear realization that divine presence is omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, perfect, whole, and complete, the same yesterday, today, and forever? Do you see and know divine presence in all of humanity, in all of life, in this your spiritual community, and in your ordination? The greatest of the mystics were people of power because they were people of prayer. When we pray, we create outcomes that expand our consciousness. Be ever aware that a minister who is too busy to pray cannot model a healthy and abundant life for others. Reverend Steve Worthing, because you have been found eminently qualified for ordination, and because you have made your sacred vows in front of your colleagues and friends, by the authority vested in me as president of Centers for Spiritual Living, I do now confer upon you ordination as a minister of religious science. You now receive authority to exercise your ministry and to be the faithful steward in fulfilling all the rights, privileges, obligations appertaining thereunto. Congratulations.
So Centers for Spiritual Living has a special gift for you. Ooh. It is the symbol of your new life as an ordained minister. This stole is a symbol of your role as minister of religious science. Every time you wear it, it will be a reminder to you and to others of your commitment to living a conscious, spiritual life and of this journey which has brought you to your ordination. Your ordination stole is purple and gold. Purple is understood to be the color of devotion, mystery, peace, and nobility. It combines the calm stability of blue and the fierce energy of red. It is trimmed in gold, which is intimately linked with the divine. Gold symbolizes wealth used wisely and represents illumination, love, compassion, and courage. The satin fabric is a reminder that your ministry, just like your life, is woven from the threads of many people, events, and understandings, and that all these many different experiences make your life, as well as your ministry, a strong, beautiful tapestry of truth. The Science of Mind symbol expresses the triune nature of God, which continually reminds us that spirit descends into and expresses as all form, that all is sacred, all is divine. Every time you wear this stole, you are linked with Science of Mind clergy and spiritual teachers around the globe and across the centuries. You carry upon your shoulders the form and the essence of your ministry, clarity and love and strength of a great philosophy, and a rich and fulfilling way of life. This stole is a loving blessing to you and to all you bless in your ministry. And now I'd like to invite Dory Sherma to come up and place this stole on Steve's shoulders. We got switching the mics. You have your talk in your pocket. Well, you're going to want to get your talk.
You can just do it from your heart.
Okay. No, you're getting your talk in that. Yeah. Plug your mic in. Ladies and gentlemen, the newly ordained Reverend Steve Worthing.
Are we on? Yes. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, about 11 o'clock last night, I decided to read through that script and had a frightening moment as to as much as I had wanted this. It seemed a little scary. And sometimes that's the way it is when you make a leap of faith. And I have always known in my heart this was my calling. And yet, there was a lot in those statements that I was going. One, I was feeling some concerns and fear, and I was going, I have felt this before, this experience. And I was trying to remember when it was. Not that I haven't had many experiences in my life, but I finally got it. When I was about 14, I had a sister. I had two sisters, and one went in the Peace Corps, and the other one went in an organization called the Christian Service Corps. And she was going down to Costa Rica for a couple of years, and we went down to Washington to see her one last time, and we're in this church, and this minister does a great talk, and at the end he asked a question, which I thought was, did anybody, really enjoy the talk and connect with it? I think that was the last time in my life I ever raised my hand. Because I raised my hand, and apparently, I was called up to the front because on some level I must have accepted Jesus as my personal Savior, and the entire congregation celebrated this breakthrough, but that feeling of maybe not knowing what you were getting into. So crossing the river was the topic for me. And it is about life's journey. Often we're looking to get to the other side of where we are rather than being in the moment. And I've had many experiences in my life, and I know whatever I've experienced, many people have had something similar. And it's about getting through this situation thinking, once you're through it, everything is going to be fine. And the reality is there is often another situation and another situation. And, you know, I realized one year, after many years, I used to either cook Thanksgiving dinner for about 20 people or Christmas dinner. I would alternate with my brother's wife on that. And the whole day was stressful. And all I could wait for was when it was over and everybody left. I said, what is the deal with that? I mean, you're supposed to enjoy the moment. You're with friends and family. And yet, so often, I get caught up in life's experiences and forget about the moment. And the reality that all this stuff works out in the end, one way or another. It works out and we survive it. And the frustration or the anxiety or the experience that I'm having with it is totally my option, my choice on some level, unconscious thinking. And one of the things I love about Asheville is the people, the wide variety of people that are here, and the ability to express yourself however you choose to. And there are some, I don't know if they're automotive repair places or all kinds of stores that like to post some sayings up on these billboards. And around Thanksgiving, there was one of them on Hendersonville Road that said, if you want to feel rich, count your blessings. And as soon as I read it, I felt a shift internally, because it's whether you're caught up in what you want or what you think is supposed to be happening, you know, or whether you're really just present to recognizing all the good in your life, because it's endless. You could write pages. But yet, for me, that often gets back-burnered, and I'm caught up in some experience which I've probably been reliving for a lifetime. But the one that I found that was really great was near the bridge on 240. It's a sign that says, if you're making the mistake for the second time, if you've made the mistake twice, if you made the mistake for a second time, it was a decision. Or the second time you make a mistake, it was a decision. And how many times in life you're in a situation not even recognizing that you made a decision and made a choice in what you're going to do. And, you know, it's this unconscious way of living where we're not tuned into our senses, to our feelings, still caught up with old ideas, old beliefs that are guiding our life. Rather than recognizing as unique individuals, we get to choose our paths. We get to choose how it unfolds in more situations than you can imagine, not just going with the flow or society's values or whatever it might be. And crossing the river for me years ago, when I came out of RSI or Asilomar in 2004, having been interviewed by 4 big shots in the association and gotten the okay that I was now a minister, I didn't want to forget, you know, that I was in pursuit of a spiritual life, and I wanted to stay centered and focused on what I wanted. And I decided to get a dog to remind me of that. And I got this dog, an English setter, which I happen to love that breed. And I named him Jordan, like the Jordan River, because I wanted to get to the promised land. And needless to say, a barking reminder did not work for me. I was convinced at one point he probably thought his name was Shut Up. I was screaming it constantly. And he made me nuts. And so naming a dog after an idea didn't work for me. I have a partner, Dory, who keeps me very much on track with where I should be. And when I'm off track, as uncomfortable as it is at times, majority of the time she's right. I will give you that. But that's a great partner for you, you know, because you need to move through moments of discomfort, whether it's in any relationship, a loving relationship, an employer, whatever it is, the experience that you are having is about you. Your reaction, your response is about you. It is never about anyone else, your experience. And when you can own it and try and track it down as to what it's about, you have a chance to clear it. And the story of the Israelites leaving Egypt, where they were in slavery, to get to the promised land, they spent 40 years in the desert before they hit the Jordan River. And the idea of Egypt is that it symbolizes bondage. And that process, the Israelites, means seekers. And they spent 40 years in the desert. And it was till every person that had left Egypt died. All old thinking, all old experiences, all old ideas had to die before they could get to the promised land. And they partied and they worshiped idols and they did everything under the sun for 40 years. And when Moses finally made it to the banks of the Jordan River, he was fed up and frustrated and smashed his stick on a rock or something. And as the story goes, God said, "You're not going to make it." And that was it. He was on the banks of the river. And I feel like I've been there a lot of times in life and actually thought I had made it, only to swim back and get lost. But because he hadn't, even over 40 years, given up his ideas, his beliefs, his control, and the way he wanted it. And that is a story for each of us as to what has to happen to get to that promised land, to get across the river. And whether it's a small situation that you're trying to work through or a big lifetime goal, you know, there is a process where old thinking often gets in the way of getting to what you want. And when you clear that stuff, the door's open and it's there. Everything you want in your life is kind of ready and waiting for you. It's about your receptivity. So years ago I went, around 2000, I went down to Peru with Reverend Michael Beckwith in the Agape group. And we were going to Machu Picchu and a number of other sites there. And the first night we were in Cusco, and it has thin air, which I had read about and thought about taking something for it. And when I found out, I think you had to take it for like 2 weeks prior to leaving. And I didn't bother. I figured I was going to be okay. And while I was there, I mean, you could be talking to somebody and they just fall over. You know? I mean, it was serious. And that first night, I was up in the hotel room and everybody was downstairs having dinner and I was too sick. I mean, I was just tossing and turning in bed and nauseous, and there was no way I was going downstairs. And though I saw when you came in the front door of the hotel, there was like a throne with an oxygen tank next to it. I don't know whether I was too proud or what the deal was. I didn't want to ask. So I stayed in the room sick, and I turn on the TV and I'm flipping through the channels, trying to find any show where they're speaking English. And I come across a late night show. And they are telling the 10 best blonde jokes. And I'm like, are you kidding? I'm in Cusco and this is the only thing I can get? And there was one of them, and I apologize to anyone with blonde hair. It seems to make for great joke material, and I myself have been referred to at one time as the male equivalent, so I understand. But at any rate, there are two blondes and there's a river, and one is on one side and one is on the other. And the one yells across to the other, "How do you get to the other side?" And the one looks at her and she's kind of confused. And she looks back and says, "You're already there." But as I thought about this topic, about crossing the river and getting to the other side, to the life that we want and we envision, where we think, I always wanted inner peace and just life to go easy, no challenges. What it takes to get to the other side, the reality is you are already there. You are already there. In the course of a lifetime, you know, whether it's things you were told or experiences you had or heartache, whatever, there are walls that we build up around us to protect us. And it's not just walls. I mean, some people go to extreme events. There's moats, there's alligators. There is everything to keep everyone at bay, to not get hurt. And the reality is, as the walls come down and you open up to life, you get out of your own thought prison and you're free. And you can take it down block at a time, or you can have a total awakening and push it over and turn it into a bridge to your freedom. But you hold the key to crossing the river, to embracing the life that you want. And all it takes is letting go of everything you know. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you.